Your next chapter is talking about the angel as face with capital F or presence with capital P. I also found this very intriguing because I never thought about God or God's, how God would manifest His face, or just as we said, as the name, or now even as presence. So the first passage I'm going to read comes from Exodus 33, 9 and 11. This is having God's presence. And this is basically what it says. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord would speak with Moses. 2 verses later, thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend, which is very interesting because, again, we said before that
Hmm.
no one saw God's face, otherwise you would have died because he's so holy and you're not. Yet Moses spoke with a face to face. Someone can say, well, it's a figure of speech, but contextually, reading this passage, it seems to be more than just figure of speech. It seems that Moses generally had this encounter with God. So again, it says that the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses turned again into the camp, his assistant Joshua, the son of Nun, a young man, would not depart from the tent. This also reminds me when Moses' face was. I didn't even plan saying about this, but when Moses' face was shining and reflecting God's glory in his face because he was in the presence of God. So it wasn't just like some metaphor or some form of speech. He really saw whatever God chose to reveal on himself, and yet Moses did not die, but Moses' face reflected what he beheld when it comes to God's glory and presence. Would you agree with that, even though I didn't read this passage like in the book, but when it comes to just before he received the tablets of the covenant, I'm reminded how his face was shining.
No, you. I mean, you're doing what we want people to do. So once you get the tools to see Christ, then you can start making the right applications. This is not a stretch what you just did, Nicola. And I know this for a fact because Paul in Second Corinthians starts talking about this very scene that you brought up, Moses' face shining, right? And he's talking about the glory of the old covenant in that particular case and being nothing like the glory of the new covenant. Yet, nevertheless, Moses' face was shining. But here's what Paul does with that. Listen to this. For God, who said, let light shine out of darkness, has shown in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. Why would he use the word face there? It's because he's an Old Testament a Jewish scholar. That's why. And Paul knows full well what's going on with this idea of the face or the presence of God. It's very, very unfortunate that a lot of times our English translations do not translate this word pane into English for us at all. They just leave it untranslated. It's bizarre. Um, because we believe very, very strongly that the face of God becomes Jesus, and we get that from Paul himself when he just said, "God has shown the knowledge of the glory of God to us in the face of Jesus Christ." Paul isn't making that up. That's exactly what he's saying Moses saw, but he saw it in a dimmer glory under the old covenant with someone who only could manifest as the angel, whereas we get to see it in the new covenant as one who has become man, very, very man of very man, very God of very God.
Yeah, amen. I also love in the same chapter of Exodus 33, verses 13 to 15, it says this. Now, therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people. And he said, my presence will go with you, and I will go and I will give you rest. So the key word is presence. And he said to
Or
him,
yeah,
if your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. So again, we see almost as synonyms God's face or God's presence being with Moses, following Moses, and God is taking Moses is taking God's presence so seriously that he says, if your presence is not with us, I don't want to even move somewhere. Like I would rather stay here and wait because I don't want to move without your presence.